Copy everyone again. This is Vranec World Day, and we're moving to the next panel where we are going to speak about the challenges of selling local grape varieties on international markets, with focus on Vranec, of course. Me, myself, personally, I've been working into the export wine sale for 15 years, and it is a great pleasure to speak today with two experts who are more than 40 years in the wine trade, and their conversation will be spiced up by the comments and the questions of Peter McCombie, who is master of wine himself, and who is very well acquainted with Vranec grape variety in the last few years. Peter, the floor is yours. Off you go.
Thanks, Katerina. I will welcome everybody to the third Vranec World Day webinar. As you know, we're going to take a look at the world, at the wine trade under Corona and the challenges that wines made from local grape varieties like Vranec face in international markets. The impact of COVID-19 pandemic on the wine business is, of course, deep, just as it is in every other industry. Across the world, lots of wineries are affected. They're facing export uncertainty, decreased sales, and it particularly seems to be affecting the hospitality, restaurant, and catering segment. However, online and supermarket sales are performing well, despite, or perhaps perversely because of, the social distancing measures that are enforced in most markets. How can a wine and a grape like Vranec cope with this new situation in global markets? We've assembled our panel today to share their experiences with us. We'd be delighted to hear your thoughts. Please use the chat function to ask questions or perhaps make a comment, and we will try to incorporate them as we go along. So I'm delighted to share my platform today with speakers Steve Daniel and Paul Blom. Steve Daniel's head of buying at Hallgarten and Novum Wines, one of the UK's leading importers and wholesalers. He's been working in the wine trade since 1985. While he was in charge of the buying department at Oddbins, he won the coveted Wine Merchant of the Year award a mere 15 times. He helped to develop Australian and Greek wines for the UK market, and in fact reblended Jacob's Creek for the UK market. He also helped to develop Chilean wine in the UK, as he was the first foreign buyer to visit the country in 1988. Steve's always worked with new and emerging and re-emerging wine countries in order to develop international quality for varietal wines. Since 2018, he's been introducing Macedonian wines into the UK markets with a focus on Vranec and other local Balkan varieties. Thanks for joining us, Steve.
It's my pleasure.
Paul Robert Blom is the former CEO of Schellmeyer Wijnkoppers since 1782 in Holland. He has been importing Vranec rather longer than most people, I think. He goes back to 1987, and he says he's responsible for more than 4 million bottles of Vranec. He's a lecturer for the Southeast Europe and a member of the examination board of the Dutch Wine Academy for over 30 years. He's got a long connection and a love of the Balkan wine culture, and he was declared a Vranec ambassador in 2019, and he does a bit on the side for Romania as well. He was made a Romania ambassador in 2018. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you, Peter.
As you know, my name's Peter McCombie. Despite being born in beautiful New Zealand, I've lived in the UK for a long time. I've sold wine, I've talked about it, I've written about it. I've consulted for restaurants, for clubs, for hotels, and wine companies. I always have an opinion, so I'm lucky to be paid to judge wine. I've judged competitions in Australia, in Argentina, in Chile, in New Zealand, Romania, Spain, and Turkey. And currently, I'm one of the co-chairs of the International Wine Challenge, which is one of the largest wine competitions of the world. I wanted to start by taking a look at how Vranec has been doing in the world, But first of all, I'd just quickly like to ask my other panelists to tell me what you think Vranec tastes like, either in general terms or maybe describe your perfect Vranec. Steve, do you want to go first?
Okay. My experience with Vranec isn't as long as some, as you said, just a few years now. But what I'm looking for in Vranec is really rich, ripe, juicy fruit, definitely a hint of violets. What I don't want is too many of the aggressive tannins that I see in some examples, and a slightly green edge when the grapes aren't picked enough. But what I'm looking for is fruit concentration, lots of ripe fruits, including violets and black fruits, black currants, a little bit of savouriness, certainly, and definitely not soupy. It needs a little bit of grip, but not too much. And I don't want an predominance of oak flavors. I want a little bit of oak maybe as a supplement, but mainly it's all about the amazing fruit that Vranec can give.
Great. Paul?
What can I say more, Steve? You eat all the grass. No, but in general, there is so many different styles possible. Depends on the quantity, vintage, and of course also the equipment of the cellar. But what you see is that in the last 10 years, many split-offs of the big cooperatives or state companies have occurred on the market, and they do very well because they have better choice of their own fruit. And since they don't pay anymore for the contents of sugar, but also for acidity in the grapes that is brought in, the quality has improved dramatically, because the old system was that you pay for sugar. So the vintners kept the fruit as long as possible in the vineyard to get a better price. And still that is giving a disadvantage for the others, because only Vranec has this opportunity to get a bonus that is brought in. So maybe a lot of other varieties are mixed with the vintage of the Vranec to make a better price for sorts like Stanislaw, Prokupec, and not forget about Kratosha.
Sure. I mean, just if I can add my own penny's worth. I mean, I agree with both of you. I think for me that generosity of fruit is important, that Steve talked about, and we touched on it. But I think also a degree of freshness, and I think for me that's one of the things about Mediterranean grapes in warmer Mediterranean climates. You know, I don't really need too many international varieties. So if I'm in a place like the Balkan Peninsula, I want freshness as well as that generosity of fruit. And I think that's one of the things, for me, one of the key things that Vranec can give. Okay, so just a few general stats first, before we look at the market in general. In the Republic of North Macedonia, wine production is about 91 million litres, of which about half is produced as bottled wine. About 85% is exported to 38 countries. And those countries tend to be very much regional: Serbia, Croatia, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Slovenia, and so on. But then you've got China and Russia, Germany, the United States. Here in the UK, we're a little bit behind, but that's where they're going. Vranec is the most important grape in Macedonia, and it's about 40% of the vineyard. Bosnia-Herzegovina is a much smaller producer of wine. Annual productions in the vicinity of 14 million litres. Imports of wine actually exceed export by some margin. Of where the exports go, they tend to go again regionally to other Balkan countries and also to Germany. Vranec is not the most important red grape there, but there's definitely some there. Vranec, of course, originates in Montenegro, where it's considered the most important grape variety. In total, the country produces about 17 million litres of wine annually, and about a third of that is exported. Although actually it depends who you talk to. In fact, probably it's more than that. And if you allow for the fact that there's a healthy tourist industry, they do say that maybe foreigners consume 80% of the total production. Again, where are the export markets? Again, they tend to be regional: Serbia, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Kosovo, Croatia, but also China and the USA. So, Paul, can you tell us a little bit about how Vranec has performed in Northern Europe, or if you like, more specifically in the Netherlands?
Well, there's always, you need, a turning point. It was the moment that the Vranec won the world champion in Ljubljana in '74. And that was the moment that we created our own label and started to import bottled wines. And from that moment on, we made a strong, marketing approach, because we allowed the retailers a good margin, and we gave 1 carton free on 10 cartons. And the first introduction of the fair in Holland for the retailers, we sold more than a truckload of this wine in 2 days as an introduction. So this was a flying start, and from that moment on, it was accepted that there was a different name, because there is, I always say, besides the local market, no defense in the big four for export, because they only ask how much are you cheaper than ours, than the others. And so if people know, but confrontation is the main tool that you have. Okay, what is your house wine in the restaurant? Put it here, I put mine next to it, and you can tell me which you prefer. And if they don't see the label, they 90% will choose for the Vranec, because it tastes good, the price is okay, and then you say you sell your house wine as your choice and not the consumer's choice. They accept what's there. So this was also a good way of introducing it to the gastronomy. Well, and then it starts to grow and grow and grow, and now we know in advance how many trailers we can sell without having contracts with any chain. But the main mistake in the exporters is that they want to be in the supermarket, in the big supermarket chain. But there, 10,000 competitors are also trying to get her wine or their wine on the shelf. So there is no chance. So you have to start with people that can talk about your wine that's off trade. And then every battle is beginning with a discussion between two people. If somebody likes it, he will buy it for his friends, and the friends will buy it for their friends and say, hey, look what I found. And this is the cheapest way of getting rid of your stock without dumping the prices. Because this is the image, of course, that in Germany, the biggest part of the Glühwein for hot wine is written product of Macedonia. So people have a very low idea of the image, because it's 1.99, because it's the blend. They should avoid getting this name there and try to get not only the bulk wine, but also the bottled wine with the quality and bottled by the producer.
Okay. Steve.
Yes.
UK. How's Vranec doing? Or how's it been doing, should we say?
Okay. Well, Vranec is relatively new through our market. There's not a great deal of history there. It's been well received. I mean, the most important thing about the UK, and I think everyone knows this, is that it's probably one of the meanest wine industries in the world, and they are always looking for a deal and looking for a bargain. And luckily for Vranec, it's not premium priced. I mean, certainly what COVID has done in our market is, one, it closed down the restaurant trade full stop for 6 months. It's only just opening up now, so that was a little bit tricky. But what it's also meant is that the restaurants that have their lists, they're looking at their costs all the time, so they're actually reducing their number of bins, which sounds like a disadvantage for somebody trying to get into the market, but actually it's an advantage. As long as you don't just have another Chardonnay or a Cabernet that comes from Macedonia, which is of no use whatsoever to anybody over here, you're great. If you've got your own indigenous varietal, you can make a point, because what's happening is, with the reduction of the size of bins, and a lot of people are taking the classic areas out. White Burgundy and Bordeaux is so expensive now. By the time it gets on a wine list, it's prohibitive for most people. The Soms are looking for something interesting to give their lists a pep. So if they've gone from a 200 bin list to a 60 bin list or an 80 bin list, you're not going to repeat yourself ad nauseum with Chardonnays and Cabernets. You're going to want to make a statement that offers real value with something else, and I think something like Vranec is a great ambassador there. So is Kratošia, but we're talking Vranec today, and I think it fits in really well at a good price point. It delivers in quality, and it's something else that the sommelier can talk about. The sommelier wants to discover it. The wine consumer in a restaurant wants the discovery. On the other side, we have our supermarkets. The supermarkets have been posting record sales during lockdown, as Peter said. What they're looking for is also something that says something different on the list. How many international grape varieties can you put on your shelves without repeating yourself? So if you can come up with a quality wine that has something to say for itself at a price that will appeal to supermarkets, and certainly from my experience, Vranec certainly from North Macedonia can do that, and therefore you have people willing to listen, and they're willing to give it a go on the shelf. So I think sometimes something like no one wants coronavirus but sometimes it creates opportunities for other areas, and I think that's what it's doing. It's creating opportunities for maybe lesser known areas, and certainly something with a little bit of something else to say for itself, and Vranec certainly has that.
You've both, I guess, been relatively positive about selling Vranec, but I just want to sort of tease out a little bit about maybe some of the challenges. I mean, it might be easy to say that a lesser known variety like Vranec is going to be harder to sell simply because it's not well known. I mean, there are other factors like maybe it's hard to pronounce, but is that lack of knowledge of the variety still a problem?
I can go first on this one. One, I don't think it's too difficult to pronounce. I'm known for pioneering Greek wines, and I'm used to Agiorgitiko and things like that. So that is difficult to pronounce. So Vranec is much easier to pronounce. I think that it is difficult to begin with to get a wine in front of people, but you almost have to. Nowadays, I think more than ever, it's selling to sommeliers and even to retail buyers. You have to give the consumer a story, so you have to start building the story behind that grape, if you like, or the background of where it comes from. People want to be taken somewhere when they want to drink, especially in COVID times. People can't go anywhere, but they can go somewhere with the bottle, if you like, if they're experiencing something that tastes of something else. And Vranec has a very distinct flavor profile. So I think it takes a long time. It's taken me 25 years to build the Greek wine market in the UK. So it's not going to happen overnight. But I think Vranec is easier to pronounce. It has things in its place. And probably one of the easiest ways is to approach it with food. So I think Mediterranean food, Balkan food, is becoming more trendy, if you like. So if you say, well, Vranec is the ideal wine to have with your, kofta or grilled meat or grilled lamb or whatever, you start building an image for it, and people can then see how they can use it. I think that's important. So that's what we're trying to do with it here is one, make sure people know exactly where it comes from and start talking a little bit about the area, but also give it a food match. And that's what a somm wants. And I think that's what most consumers want. They want to know, will this go with the barbecue I'm doing this weekend or whatever? It's a bit like the Argentinians did Malbec with meat. Very simple, but it worked for them.
Yeah. Paul, do you want to add something there?
Yeah, well, the grill is part of the Balkans. Moving tribes, not time for the kitchen to build, but always the grill there. So barbecuing, in fact, is part of the daily life in the Balkans. And you can use what Peter said, or Steve said, that the food, everybody knows Macedonian fruit and Macedonian salad. That goes back to the excellent quality of this agriculture products, and grapes is one of them. So you always can call that even in top restaurants in gastronomy, they know Macedonian fruit and Macedonian salad. So this belongs to it. And then of course the good meat together with the ivar. I mean, this is a few products that you can easily promote together with the wines. Is the ivar. Ivar is a local made product, but also industrial. That is like a mash of, let's say, only vegetables. And that goes very well with meat and white cheese. And then, of course, a rather strong wine like Vranec. But, well, these countries, like they are getting into the EU or are part of the EU in the southeastern Europe, they should have food and wine arrangements more than they do, not just hotels and sand and the beach, but people go to South Africa and spend 10,000 euros for a wine tour, or to California. And why they couldn't do that to the Balkans? They combine the countries together. They can take the Danube, they can take the other tracks along the sea. And this is the way they could, let's say, profit from the fact that they have their own kitchen and wine.
I think that's a really good point. I mean, maybe it's slightly different in Holland and Germany, but I think in the UK, people are still a bit unsure about the Balkans. Like maybe they might have been on holiday in Montenegro, but I think Bosnia, Kosovo, Macedonia are still a bit exotic, and maybe people don't know them as well as people like you and me and Steve who've been there and so on. And we love the food, but I think it's still relatively unknown. And I agree with you. I think there's an opportunity for, if you like, an outreach and get people in export markets to discover the food and the culture of these countries. And because in a way, when we talk about the Balkans, it kind of lumps them all together. And I'm not old enough to, and I suspect there are some people and the word Balkan maybe doesn't have too many happy memories. People think about, even though it's a long time ago, 20 odd years, I think a lot of people probably, if you say the word Balkan, they're still thinking about terrible wars. So I think there's work to be done in talking about the things around wine, not just wine, but culture and food.
It's a little bit overdone, because if you talk Spain, then you think of the beaches and the sun.
That's
but
true.
There was also parts of Spain that were dangerous 10 years ago.
That's true. The other thing I think it's interesting, when I was talking to people about this, I think we have, in certain places you do have ethnic enclaves, if you like. So for example, in Chicago in the US, there are some quite significant populations of Macedonians and Serbs and so on, and you get little pockets here as well. And I think there's a real opportunity for people to discover these wines, Vranec and so on, through these kind of restaurants, or maybe the people who go there aren't necessarily locals. Maybe they are Serbs or Macedonians. But I think there's a nice little sort of warm up there, a potential for it to take off a bit more, for people to be exposed to these wines a bit more.
Sorry, but you would say that only Italians in the United States go to Italian restaurants?
No, not at all. But I know, for example, that there is a thing when you're
Diaspora.
that people often will go to something familiar, but obviously other people do go there. It's like in this country, of course, there are a lot of Italian restaurants. There's a lot of Turkish restaurants, for example.
No, but
many Macedonian restaurants.
Each tourist can become an ambassador.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. One of the things I found when I was talking to people about this is that I think Vranec can still be a little bit of an unknown quality. A number of the professionals I talked to said they'd never been offered a sample. No one had tried to sell it to them. One or two had barely heard of it. Now, I know it's a bit chicken and egg because productions aren't necessarily enormous. So if you're not offered it, people won't buy it. But I do sort of wonder, if you think about, most of these producing countries aren't majorly export focused outside of the regional market. But it is, I think the UK and the USA are still, there's probably quite a lot of work to be done in reaching out.
Yeah, sure. But
Okay.
Where to start? I mean, if the tourists come and they have the right wines and the right foods, they make and bring it home. We sell only bottled wines from Macedonia and also from Croatia, and we buy full trucks, not because it's sold, but we know that we will sell them. And of course, we had a hiccup for 3 months, but now we are back on track, and the sales are on normal level, and we expect another 2 or 3 trailers full until the end of the year.
So you've just segued perfectly for me, because I wanting to ask about the effect of the pandemic in your market and what it's done to sales, and if there's been if Vranec fits or doesn't. But you've more or less answered, I think. So the market's come back.
Yes, yes. For Macedonian wines, yes. And of course, there's all over the world, there's 3 billion bottles is not sold in those 3 months all over the world from all the countries. So they all are trying to get back, and maybe dumping of prices, maybe special offers, free cartons, whatever what. They want to get rid of their stocks.
Yeah.
From Bordeaux to Skopje.
Yeah. So Steve, your experience?
Obviously, the lockdown in the restaurant trade was full and total for many months, but we've seen it come back pretty buoyantly. Actually, we're on the restaurant trade, which is the vast majority of our business. It's about 70% of its previous level, so about 70% of where it was last year. Because we still have restrictions, our restaurants are having to close. I mean, that's not last orders; they have to close at 10 o'clock. So that's a big part of the drinking evening, if you like, and the add-on sales have gone. That second bottle has gone. A lot of our consumers are having to go for strict time slots, and they're having to do their dinners in an hour and a half. There's not a chance to do the second or the third bottle. So that's going to remain with us for quite some time. I don't think our market will fully recover until probably middle of next year, as long as we follow the correct trajectory. In terms of retail's been very buoyant throughout. So retail has been trading up really well. So the retail side is good for us personally. It's only 30% of our business, but generally speaking, retail has been great. And as I said, people are looking for value because everyone's feeling the pinch. There's a lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people will lose their jobs. So people are looking for value.
Can I ask you about, you said 30% of your business is retail, but that's servicing retail.
Retailers. Yeah, we don't
direct to customer sales.
No, we don't trade directly with the end consumer, but we deal with multiple independents. We also have business with the big guys, Waitrose and Marks and Spencers, but we always work with different labels on those.
And in terms of your retail customers, are there steps that you've taken? Are there any particular initiatives you've done to try and help them or work with them better?
Yeah, well, with our restaurant customers, we've offered a thing called 100,000 glasses, which is basically where, with the help of our suppliers, we've been offering by the glass to restaurants free for their customers to help. So that helps. So sampling by the glass is the best way to get an unknown variety and an unknown wine across. Once you've tried it, there's no risk. People are risk averse. If there's no risk, they'll have a go at anything. And as long as it delivers, and invariably Vranec will, then, it's great. In terms of retailers, it's more difficult because the whole tasting event is very tricky. If somebody's got an enigmatic, it might be easier, but the concept and the health issues of people tasting wine and then spitting it and being in the shop for a period of time, there are restrictions of how many people you can have in shops. So that element is just not allowed in the UK at the moment. Yeah.
I want to come back to retail, but just before we move away from this 100,000 glasses, would you say that initiative was primarily about supporting your customers, and the add-on or the bonus for your suppliers who were co-funding with you is that they get the chance to have wines in front of people by the glass and so on? I mean, can you sort of say how that all balances out?
Yeah, well, I think it was a massive support, I think, to our customers, our restaurant customers, from us and from our suppliers. We're one in the same, if you like, because they've had such a traumatic time, really have. They've been totally hit by this. But I mean, if a som or a restaurant owner wants to start trialing something a little different, this is the ideal opportunity to do it, because they're getting that bottle, if you like, to pour those wines funded. So, I mean, beyond that, because there's only so much we can do. 100,000 glasses sounds like a lot, but it can only go so far. But it is a great way of promoting an unknown variety. Is tasting, which, as I say, in the retail outlets, I don't know when that's going to come back, but certainly in a restaurant, by helping our restaurants with a Buy the Glass campaign, maybe offering a free bottle every 12 bottles and things like that, it can help. Yeah.
Okay, great. So flipping back to retail, some of the people I've been talking to say there's evidence that because people who are still able to work aren't going out to restaurants, they have more money to spend on food and wine, and there's some evidence that they are trading up and that they're more adventurous. Now, that's not a necessary universal view, but I'm wondering if Paul, if you have a view about that, if you're seeing that consumers in the retail space are actually being a bit more adventurous or not, and are they prepared to spend a bit more money?
Well, in the retail, the owner or the manager can always point on special issues or special actions, and then he can, of course, choose for he can choose for a Chardonnay or Cabernet from any country in the world, or say there is something new and try it because it's worth the money. And there was a question from Matthew. Well, the lowest line that we sell from Macedonia, it's like retail $6.95, and because we have on every bottle the same wine tax of 70 cents, euro cents. So including 21% of the VAT, then you know where you end up for the buying price. And then we have around 11, and then of course we have also wines from around 100, and that's from Kamnik. The most expensive ones are around 100 euros retail, but they go. But I mean, small, but it's like the iceberg. The top is small and the base is underwater, so not visible. But in this way, you can say even those price shifts are sellable, even from Macedonia. And I was very happy recently that the blend I made for Kamnik for the new released Kratosha got a double gold in the Balkan, and it was almost, he was candidate for the trophy, but it just lacked one vote to not be selected. And I made this blend on their request, and it's good to see that if you have influence on the blending, that you have another approach than the winemaker itself. It's like the piano steamer and the concert player. They have another approach to the idea of what is the best, let's say, blend.
Yep. So Steve, have you seen a kind of maybe a switch towards slightly more exotic or more expensive? Or can you not generalize?
In the UK, I would say a switch, people prepared to experiment a little bit more. But I mean, the stats that a lot of people were commenting on was saying that people are drinking less but drinking better. It is fairly spurious because, yes, the price has gone up. The average price of a bottle in the UK retail is £6, and everyone was rejoicing. But that's because you can't produce and sell a bottle of wine under £6. Yeah. So it's the consumer was trading up because they have to trade up, because the minimum entry level of a bottle of wine has moved up because of duty. We have £2.23 per bottle on duty. Costs, glass bottles, capsules, all has gone up. So no, we haven't seen a trade up, no. But what we've seen is a trade across, if you like. People were looking for value from different areas, so they're prepared to be more experimental to find that value.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting you say about you can't make wine that cheap anymore, and I agree with you. And I remember a couple of years ago when there was another sort of significant price barrier breach or minimum price breached, and various people were tearing their hair and saying, oh, we're losing drinkers to other categories. And I have to say, I didn't know why they were tearing their hair out, because it seemed to me it wasn't profitable. So if those people really don't want to spend the money so that you can't make a wine and make a fair profit, then goodbye. You know, I don't see the loss of those people. I mean, why would you want to do business that's unprofitable?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We just have to, agree that £6 really is the entry level for most wine nowadays in the UK. There are obviously promotions in supermarkets which you'll see it below that, but it's not sustainable, and I doubt whether it's truly profitable.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, the average price in the Dutch market is €2.45.
Whoa.
Although you have lower duty than we do.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, people looking for these bargains and think that they enjoy it, because if you subtract the bottle and the packaging and the handling, then you come under 20 cents a kilo of grapes. And which farmer is proud that he can tell you that he sold it for that price?
Yeah.
But
€2.45
it's the fact. It's the fact.
Yeah, that's just our duty. €2.45 is our duty per bottle.
Okay, I want to come back to something. I think it was Paul was talking about the person. He didn't use the word, but I'm going to use the word gatekeeper. So the people that choose the wine to put on a wine list or choose the wine to put on a shelf in a retailer, those gatekeepers, I think they are often interested in innovation and novelty. And if they are, they can pretty much sell anything. I'm just kind of interested in terms of, how do those people find you? How do you find them? How do you work with those people, I suppose, is what I want to get at.
Yeah, it's a wrong approach that you go to the food and beverage manager, because what they choose, the Black Brigade, doesn't know, and they are not aware of it. So you have to organize inside the restaurants tastings with their own food, with the best sold food, with the wines that you want to sell them. And then they are willing to accept, because they like the wine in that moment. And then the food and beverage manager can only say, yes, I will take it and distribute it. Because just having it in the cellar, I used to have a stage in one of the best restaurants in the kitchen, and there the chief cook said, there's no restaurant that went bankrupt on the salary of the good cook, but on the not sold stock of expensive wines.
Yeah, very good point. Steve.
Sorry, in terms of the gatekeepers, I mean, we have 45 salespeople that are out there all the time that have very good relationships. Generally certainly with SOMs and some more forward-thinking F&B managers. There are a few out there. So we have
purchasing managers are the worst.
Yeah, I can vouch for that. But yeah, so we do have good relationships, and I think most people at that level are open. They want to see a wine that can maybe give them a little bit more pizzazz on the list and ultimately make them some money. I think that's what they want. They want a happy consumer, a happy customer that comes back again and orders it again and puts some money in the till.
Okay, so we've sort of touched on these people, and I'm interested in initiatives that can work and how we can work with them. And you've talked about, I think both of you have talked about Buy the Glass and maybe smaller pours. And it seems to me that tasting, in my experience, both I used to be in sales and certainly as a consultant and as a commentator, you see that I think tasting is really important, both for the gatekeepers and the people who have to sell the wine, but also for the customers. But I think it's really important that tasting opportunity is backed by training. I think you need enthusiastic and trained staff who can shift new wines. And I'm a huge believer in sales training. I think we probably spend a little bit too much time on product knowledge, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think we need to encourage our customers to get their staff to sell more. And I don't mean a hard sell, and I don't mean an arrogant sell. I mean capitalizing on the enthusiasm of wine professionals, especially if they're young, maybe, and a little less experienced. And I think it's about giving them confidence to talk about wine, to actually trust their own judgment, and actually to sell the wine to people who actually might like it. Because it's no point trying to sell a wine to somebody who's not going to like it. But I think that, to me, that selling is a really, really important part of selling unusual or different or new wines.
Sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have a whole department for training, which is it's one is to train our staff, but more importantly, it's to train our customers and the people at the sharp end. I mean, the Soms very often know what they're doing. They do know what they're doing. It's the people below that sometimes will be at that poor level that needs to be worked on, or if you're working with gastropubs and whatever. So we spend a lot of time, effort, and money doing exactly that. One, explaining what the wine is, but also the business behind it. And you know, there's a science in good selling, but that's not hard selling. It's just understanding what your customer's looking for, what experience they want, and being able to tap into that.
I think that's absolutely correct. As a customer myself, I quite like being sold to. If I think someone's actually good at doing a job. You know, we've all been somewhere, excuse me, where they you're getting a hard sell. Maybe it's a dish that's off or running out of steam, and the chef told them there are 4 portions left, get rid of it. And you ask for recommendation, they recommend it, and you can tell they've got no belief or no soul behind that recommendation. But when someone says, "Oh, that's really good, you should try that," that to me is as a customer, I respond really well to that. And if someone says, "Oh, well, what do you like, and how, and what style are you looking for, and how about trying this?" then I'm a sucker for it. I think lots of people actually will respond really well to that. Can I just bring up one? We've sort of covered, I think, quite a lot of the ground I thought we would, but I want to talk a little about style. In fact, Nicholas has asked a question about styles of Vranec, about the use of oak, and we did. I think Steve touched on it right at the beginning, but I'd like to hear both of your views about the use of oak. Now, we know, Steve, you don't like too much oak, but presumably you can see some scope for well-used oak.
Yes, I mean, at the end of the day, I think for Vranec to make real penetration in the market, you have to have a Vranec for every occasion and every price point, really. I mean, entry level is one thing, and that should be fruit forward and maybe stainless steel, but if you are going to really start pushing the boat at the top end to show that we can produce trophy-winning wines, there's going to be an element of oak involved in that wine. But it's the handling of the oak. I think a big slop of chips or a sort of clumsily oaked American oaked wine isn't going to do it. If you're going to make a premium wine with oak, use premium oak and use it carefully. I think that's the thing, and make sure that the fruit can stand up to that oak. I think it's balanced.
What you see in the cellars that you visit is that they all invest with European funds in new oak, and of course it must be French and it must be barrique. But in my opinion, bigger oak, botte of 2,000 or 20,000 liters is much more adequate, because it's like too much salt in a meal can destroy all the flavor, just the salt. And oak is doing that too. And luckily, the Parker points don't count that much anymore. Of course, there's people that want only wines with 100 Parker points, but they are not drinkable. You have to eat them with fork and knife. And there is no pleasure putting them next to a meal, because it's overruling every, let's say, special taste or flavors. And there's enough possibilities that you use it as pepper and salt, just to give it a flavor. 20% oak is, for me, most of the times, is enough.
Yeah.
And over-oaked wines is out of the time. It's no longer in fashion.
Interesting. I've been tasting some Vranec blends in the last couple of days, and I was pleasantly surprised about the amount of oak. There was less than I expected, but there was one wine that had French oak, Slavonian oak, and American oak. And it actually was really not overly oaked. I mean, you know, maybe personally I would have liked a little less oak, but actually it was pretty well. The oak was pretty much in keeping with the wine and balance. And I tasted another wine that was very ambitious, that was quite seriously, you know, the big technical sheet, and it was more international in style. But even then, I felt there was a fruit concentration and a fruit quality and a freshness that actually ultimately the wine was in balance. I personally would have put that wine away, you know, for 2 or 3 years. But I think there are definitely consumers who would have liked it. But for me, that wine, maybe not that particular, but that kind of wine, maybe even 3 years ago in Macedonia, I suspect would have had really astringent oak tannins. And that's, for me, the thing I really, really hate.
It's, I mean, why you should cover all the qualities of a grape, like fruit and freshness, with something that's from outside, because oak has nothing to do with the grapes.
Yeah, yeah. We've got a few questions on chat. We've sort of covered some of them, but there's one for you, Steve. I don't know if you can see the chat.
I can look it up. Let me have a look.
I'll read it while you read. It says, "Does your company provide sales training specifically targeted at channel sales? So distributors and retailers are trained to sell wines in specific ways and with centralized, branded, and controlled messages?"
Well, yes. I mean, most of the money that we spend and the effort that we spend is educating our restaurant customers, and within that we have from you know, a mom and pop's trattoria all the way up to Michelin starred restaurants. So we tailor that program to whoever we're talking to. So yeah, it's a tailored program. There's no point in talking about you know, first growths and class cru, you know, top Burgundies to a gastropub, and you know, you have to tailor the training to ultimately your end consumer. So we do, yeah.
Yeah, good. I think it's interesting in my time in the business how there's so much more training carried out by by importers and wine companies now, more than there used to be.
Yeah.
And, you know, properly trained people doing proper training.
Good.
Great. So I reckon we're just about at the end of things. Eleanor, are you going to come back and make an announcement for us?
Yes. A very fruitful discussion, I may say. I think that Mr. Paul Bloom just went off.
No, I'm here.
You're here?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to announce something. If we have questions in meantime, we can proceed. But I would like to say that last year we had 5 proclaimed Vranec ambassadors. So those are the people that are promoting Vranec. Yes, Paul is one of them. He's proudly wearing his T-shirt from last year. So this year we have 2. We have 2 Vranec ambassadors. One was proclaimed on the first session. Today it was Mr. Thomas Brendel. And now we would like to share something with you. Let me just do it.
See a new face.
Something interesting, yes. It was fun. I saw on the list a couple of people that joined this session. Katerina, you know some of them personally?
Yes, Elena, until you're about to announce the surprise, yes, I would like to say thank you, really thank you for all our importers and all our promoters in Europe and worldwide. Thank you for being such a great promoters of Macedonian wine. I believe with us tonight we have importers from United States. It's quite early there, So I would like to say hello to Steven, to Matthew, to the guys from Winebow, everyone who is with us tonight, but also all the other reporters, the last but not least, everyone who is promoting Macedonia and our wines worldwide. So really big greetings. We had maybe in-depth insights for the UK and Netherlands market with Steve and Paul. This is really one of the toughest markets in Europe. And thank you so much for really helping us to sell our Vranec in this market. There we go.
So the second Vranec ambassador for 2020 is Mr. Nicolas Angelina. Hi, Nicolas.
Congratulations, Nicolas.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, because of COVID, we cannot give you in person this badge, but we will send you soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being part of our story.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for you.
Just to say a few words about Nicolas, or the way I love to say Nico, his nickname. Nicolas is very respected judge to International Wine Challenge in UK. He's been dealing into importing wines in UK for 20 years. So he's very well acknowledged with Vranec since 2013. And he's really one of the guys, one of the frontmen in promoting Macedonian wine, into trying to get the wine and the variety as much as possible to the importers. So Nico is our Macedonian face in UK so far. Thank you, Nico.
Thank you very much. Thanks for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Stay tuned with us for the next panel, which is Caroline Gilby and live tasting of all the Vranec wines starting 7 p.m. Central European summertime. Will be done by 8. And then you'll be all enjoying your wines. So Vranec or Macedonian Vranec at home. Thank you for being with us. All the best greetings from Macedonia. And I hope we see you again the next Vranec World Day.
Brilliant. Can I just say thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure. I suspect we're all here because we like Vranec. So I'd like to say, I hope we can all have a drink or two in real life in a very short period of time. So cheer, a metaphorical cheers.
Yes, this is cheers. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Right.
Na zdravie.
Ciao, ciao.
Have a good night. Regards from Macedonia. Bye-bye.
Bye.